Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important issue that nobody is talking about, specifically the sheer number, the volume of records that Joe Biden is keeping. Biden should release his papers. The Atlantic, I did a segment on this. I'm going to do another one. I might do 100. The reason is because The Atlantic is a very liberal publication. The writers dislike Trump, or I should say they have utter contempt for President Trump. And nobody is talking about this. Well, I should say the left is addressing the issue very cautiously. Conservatives, President Trump supporters, progressives, because they have, look, everyone has become me. They used to say, oh, Goodman says Bernie can still win. They canceled the New York primary. He's not on the ballot anymore. His delegates are going to Biden, who will then give the baton to Clinton. She did not endorse Biden yesterday. It doesn't even say that on his YouTube page. Why? Why doesn't it say that? Please go to his YouTube page. President Trump endorses Joe Biden for president. Bernie Sanders endorses Joe Biden for president. Women's conference featuring Hillary Clinton, where she never says, I am endorsing you for president. The whole thing was about Clinton. But anyway, Clinton will be the nominee, and it doesn't matter how petrified people both on the left and right are. This will be the biggest political prediction of all time, and I will have told you since February of 2020 in my Huffington Post article, Clinton 2020 is a reality, get ready for 8 years of Trump. I also wrote in the Times of Israel the same type of article saying that Clinton will be the nominee in 2020. By the way, Bizarro World Goodman, world premiere was just a couple hours back. The second segment, well, people love the first segment. The second segment ever is going to be at 7 p.m. Pacific on Bizarro World Goodman. The link is below in the pinned comment and description. Hit subscribe, and then make sure you get all notifications, and make sure on your cell phone that you're able to get YouTube notifications. That's for this channel, that's for H.A. Goodman's other channel, and that's for Bizarro World Goodman. So please subscribe to all three channels with yours truly. But this is Bizarro World Goodman, second segment ever at 7 p.m. Pacific, just in like an hour and a half or so, or, whenever you see this, 7 p.m. Pacific. In 2012, this is The Atlantic, Biden delivered 1,875 boxes of photographs, documents, videotapes, and files, and 415 gigabytes of electronic records to his alma mater, University of Delaware. They covered his entire 36-year Senate career. At the time, the university said it expected to make the papers, quote, available to the public 2 years after Biden's last day in elected office. Biden left the vice presidency in January 2017. In January 2019, came and went with no papers released. Then on April 24, 2019, the day before Biden announced his presidential campaign, the university revised the schedule. The papers would now remain sealed until December 31st, 2019, or until 2 years after Biden retires from public life. The question, ladies and gentlemen, is why, when you take into account Ms. Reid's allegations against Biden that are corroborated by a 1993 call-in, and could you imagine if Kavanaugh or Trump had corroboration in that form where somebody called in and they would obsess over it. Democrats would obsess. They would, in a hysterical frenzy, replay the 1993 call endlessly. In 1993, Miss Reid's mother called in Larry King live, stating that her daughter worked for a prominent senator and that she had to leave under dire circumstances, and she did not go to the press with what she experienced out of respect for the senator. Now there's an active criminal DC criminal probe. People relish Like, the left is hilarious. Democrats, liberals, they're really hilarious. I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I was the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. Those links are below in the description. I understand the mentality of the left because I used to be on the far left. I understand the mentality. But I never subscribed to the duplicitous and disingenuous yell, screech, cry at the top of your lungs, just engage in this apocalyptic Armageddon, end of the world type scenario if you don't get your way, especially when it comes or trying to publicize your alleged value system, and then when you're tested, simply ignore allegations from misread against Biden, but definitely screech and yell at the top of your lungs against Kavanaugh or Trump. When I was on the left, I drew a line in the sand. I said, by the way, like I told you, Clinton is going to be nominee. Don't think for 1 second Biden is going to be nominee. He was never endorsed by Clinton. Find me where she said, I'm endorsing you for president, and find me where on the YouTube channel it says Hillary Clinton endorses Joe Biden on Joe Biden's YouTube channel. Everyone else just runs with it because they hear Clinton say the word endorsement and then in some way link it to Biden. She didn't endorse Biden for president. It's like saying I'm supporting you, or it's like when they spin things that Trump suggested this. He never advocated. They live within within a world of semantic murkiness. They mangle and manipulate the definitions and meanings of words to craft a narrative. So they already cheated in 2016. What makes you think they wouldn't do something either completely outlandish or do something in a way where Clinton yet again becomes nominee? Why would anyone think that? Why would anyone think that this is a normal primary? The entire planet has been deceived and duped. And not just this, a whole bunch of things, or I should say certain things, but pertaining to the primary. Whatever takes place, something's going to take place where people are going to say, how could anyone have predicted this? I'm predicting this. I am telling you that Hillary Clinton is going to be nominee at convention time. They're not going to go with Joe Biden. Now, if she's not nominee at convention time, her name will be on the ballot. Clinton will be on the ballot in November. It'll be November 3rd, 2020. It'll be Clinton and Trump again. The past 4 years has been just a repeat of 2016. That's it. We will never, ever move away from 2016, ever. It will be with us forever, because she'll run again in 2024. These allegations are just one of many things that are going to eventually tank Biden's campaign. And in addition to something unforeseen, there are a litany of scenarios that could take place with Biden, none of which anyone can predict. But one of those scenarios will lead to Clinton as nominee on the ballot in 2020. Now, in 2012, Biden delivered 1,875 boxes of photographs, documents, videotapes, and files, 415 gigabytes of electronic records to his alma mater. What do you think happens if the D.C. police ask for that information or want to find that information, or there's a subpoena for that information? That's just one more reason Biden is unelectable. What happens if there's another skeleton that comes out? He has more skeletons than a graveyard. What's taking place is not, okay, when the media, when the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Democratic Party are all saying the same thing, it's probably not the truth. When the Democratic Party, Joe Biden, intelligence agencies, Washington Post, New York Times are all saying the same thing, there's probably something there. Democrats are not stupid. They're not going to go and waste $1.2 billion to $2 billion. Michael Bloomberg spent $1.2 billion of his own money just to run for president. Do you believe that? No, of course not. Amy Klobuchar dropped out day before Super Tuesday. Do you think that that's logical? She didn't want to win Minnesota? How is that even logical? Of course she wanted to win Minnesota. Or whatever. One would want to win her home state as she's a senator. You don't think she would want to win her home state? So Elizabeth Warren drops out a day after, tanks Bernie's campaign before and after. There's an app in Iowa now that is linked to Clinton campaign people. Now there are these allegations that are not only credible. I believe that Joe Biden actually did what Miss Reed is saying. I don't believe that Kavanaugh or Trump engaged in those behaviors because you can debate when you don't have evidence, conclusive evidence. You can say, well, I believe this person. Stacey Abrams believes Biden. She doesn't believe Tara Reid. I don't believe the accusations against Kavanaugh or Trump because there's less information corroborating those accusations than with Miss Reid. Miss Reid has a criminal complaint in the Washington, D.C. Police Department, which the New York Times said if you file a criminal complaint, you could go to prison. Nobody who accused Trump, and by the way, all the accusers, you can look at the allegation page on Wikipedia, which just miraculously popped up when he was running for president. The guy was known as a germ freak for decades, while Biden was massaging and sniffing people for decades. So the pattern of behavior was with Biden, not with Trump. But 2015, he suddenly becomes a racist, bigot, Russian intelligence operative that is now a predator. And with Kavanaugh, they were focusing on him drinking beer. Nobody filed a police report against Kavanaugh or Trump. Biden has a police report. There was never an active police investigation regarding the police report. Okay? There was never a 1993 call-in corroborating the story. Now, the whole issue of corroboration, because somebody heard it or somebody called in or somebody heard it, that whole thing, Democrats created that standard of proof. They create a standard of what they view to be evidence, and then when there's overwhelming evidence based upon that standard against Biden, they ignore it. They do not look at Alyssa Milano, Stacey Abrams. I mean, where are these people who believe, except when it's a Democrat? They don't have a value system. The whole thing with believe, that was political. That was purely political. So why would you, look at how duplicitous and disingenuous they are. Why would you think they wouldn't cheat again? They already cheated Bernie Sanders, then blamed Russia. And Bernie is completely spineless and then promoted the same intelligence community myth. And then he's talking about Medicare for all, Medicare for all. The House hasn't passed the Medicare for all bill or Green New Deal legislation, that was a resolution, or student loan or anything they talk about. The whole thing is a sad, pathetic game of smoke and mirrors and illusion to just simply funnel votes from good, idealistic people. You might disagree with them or agree with them, but they're idealistic and they're passionate on the far left. Many of them. A lot of them are just followers. But there are good idealistic people. The base of the Democratic Party is the I'm with her crowd. So you see these articles, you think that Clinton is going to hurt her or help Biden with her endorsement. She didn't endorse Biden. It was barely an endorsement. It was a semantic game. Look, you're talking about somebody's quest for political influence. You're talking about somebody's megalomaniacal ego and narcissism. This spans beyond a prediction. Do you really think that Clinton will knock on doors and give money to Biden? Why would she do so if Biden is obviously unelectable? Clinton was unelectable, like I said, NPR quoted me in 2016, which nobody could take that away from me. So, if people say, you said that Clinton would be indicted. Yeah, well, James Comey covered everything up. I had the pulse of what was going on. Then you have people, he said he had the pulse of what was going on. It still wasn't true. It's like, oh my God. You can't. The analysis was far more accurate than everyone else's analysis, who just simply, she covered up, the crimes were covered up, that's fine. Oh, whatever. That's the analysis of most of the publications out there. They knew that Clinton committed crimes, but they didn't really care. They said, oh, well, gosh, there's nothing there, and Comey found nothing, so we have to trust Comey, because if the second that Comey gives Trump the goods on all of them, he almost certainly does have, they'll then dislike and have utter contempt for Comey again. They did right before the election, when he wrote the Comey letter, there was a list of the most horrible things said about him. Then when he switched sides and went against Trump, then they loved him. It was believe with Kavanaugh. Now it's not believe with Biden. And he's keeping those 1,875 boxes of records and photographs, documents, videotapes, and files. And now it's just, I believe Biden. So what makes you think that they're going to go with somebody who's unelectable? At the nomination, I do not believe he's going to be at the nomination, but I can tell you with 100% certainty, Hillary Clinton is going to be nominee. Otherwise, she would then become, essentially, the stupidest politician of all time. Because this nomination is hers for the taking, and it always was. Everyone's dropping out. Everyone dropped out on cue. Everyone had their role to play, just like Bernie Sanders had his role to play, and everyone believes it. The Democratic Party is composed of extremely impressionable, gullible people who will believe anything the Washington Post, the New York Times, and Democratic Party say in unity. Unity! They will believe anything as long as the talking heads on MSNBC and CNN and the Democratic Party and the Washington Post and New York Times say something. So now it's Biden. Well, gosh, he's going to be our nominee. The pledged delegates are not even bound to vote for Biden. Everyone left and right is saying the man either has possible serious cognitive issues. I think it's kind of an act also. I think he's completely healthy. I think Biden's completely fine in the brain. Completely. Almost like as much as he can be. A lot of the times when he veers off into Never Neverland, it's like a shtick. In my book, he fell asleep during the endorsement, apparently. The fake fabricated endorsement. There was people saying, well, did he fall asleep? I mean, what more has to happen? They have to jump into the reflecting pool with no clothes on, and then maybe they'll look for an alternative? The whole thing was a charade. This whole entire thing is a charade. The Tara Reade allegations are a serious issue. I believe that Biden is guilty. I don't believe that that suddenly 25 people, none of which state what he did on that hot mic, none. But what he stated, what he stated in jest on that hot mic as a joke or as some kind of bizarre. I mean, I love Trump, but that was weird. That was nuts on the hot mic. Okay, you want to know who actually did that? Biden. And I do believe that he did that. Because there's just too many. You look at Biden's personality, he's a touchy-feely, gross, weird, slimy person. Go find a picture that isn't like manipulated. It's like there are no videos of Trump sniffing hair. You always have these Trump derangement syndrome people that they're like, oh, did you see that video, that picture of Trump? And it's like in these they focus on these pictures with family members, and it's like they have no shame. Okay, with just they're like, he's hugging his family, he's hugging his daughter or whatever, and they're like, look at that. It's like, oh my God. He's just hugging like a family member. It's just like a hug. But with Biden, sniffing, massaging, touching, he's like nestling his nose into people's hairs. It's all on YouTube. You can just watch it. This is a pattern of behavior. This guy's takes creepy uncle to like the exponential extreme. And they're like, oh, well, there's no pattern of behavior with Biden, you know. So yeah, Biden is done. It's the centennial of the 19th Amendment, the amendment giving women the right to vote. They ain't going to go with an obvious, sleazy, slimy, ultimately unelectable. I can't say failed politician because he was vice president for 8 years, but you don't really know what he's ever done. Oh, yeah, he signed a couple He presided over some legislation. Great, he was there for 40 years. What does he want? What do you want? I mean, you wouldn't be elected for mayor if this wasn't a complete fabrication. But anyway, give me your thoughts below. He's keeping 1,875 boxes of information that almost certainly in some way reference the Tara Reade allegations or could lend or could lead to evidence regarding those allegations. You're not watching Hillary Clinton is going to be nominee. The fact that that is viewed as a right-wing opinion, or the fact that is viewed as unrealistic, shows you it's not an indication. It's not a reflection of me. It shows you how dysfunctional the Democratic Party is. When 4 years ago she was the most qualified person on the planet, and now they view her to be Freddy Krueger and Jason and every monster all rolled into one. Give me your thoughts below. At 7 p.m. Pacific, the second Bizarro World segment will be up. Go to Bizarro World Goodman, click subscribe to it and get all notifications. Make sure your phone can get notifications and do so with this channel and H.A. Goodman's other channel.